Late Wednesday, after initially trailing, a voter initiative appears to have been approved to make Denver the first U.S. city to decriminalize magic mushrooms. And it's thanks to these people at this election night party.
We all know that this goes way beyond Denver, way beyond Denver. Right now, this thing is a coast-to-coast movement.
Kevin Matthews is the campaign manager behind Decriminalized Denver, the political activist group that got the measure on the ballot. He also personally testifies to the power of psilocybin mushrooms, which he says helped cure his depression.
I was a cadet at the U.S. Military Academy, and my life dream was to serve my country as a career Army officer. And while I was at the academy, I was diagnosed with major depression, and then I eventually received a medical retirement from the Army because of depression. And it felt like that my purpose had basically crumbled apart and disappeared. And then I met an amazing group of friends here in Denver who responsibly introduced me to psilocybin. And it was this one experience that I had just cleared the fog. And so after that experience, the benefits lasted for weeks that really enabled me to step outside the box of depression and start to create a new life for myself without needing to go back to using the mushrooms again.
Campaign political coordinator Cindy Sovine brought her experience lobbying for increased access to cannabis to the psilocybin mushroom fight.
If there is anything that this country should be talking about after we do this in Denver, is that as we have set the container to decriminalize all drugs. This is about harm reduction, and we need to start there before we start talking about legalizing anymore, because we should not be giving people the ability to make a profit off of the sale of a legal product while we're still putting people in jail for using that product.
Denver police have averaged an arrest of about 50 people a year for the past 3 years for possessing or selling psilocybin mushrooms, and prosecuted about 11 of those cases last year, according to the Washington Post. But Sovine says that while the numbers may be small, the personal impact is huge.
If you are the mother or the son or the brother or the father of one of those individuals, it is still a priority. In fact, one of the folks very much involved in our campaign is one of those people who was arrested and thrown in jail and still to this day has ramifications within his life for what he can and cannot do because of psilocybin.
Sovine also says she believed Denver already had the psychedelic culture necessary to be the first to try decriminalization, a culture which is on display in the city's Rhino Art District that features buildings and an entire alley covered with psychedelic street art.
The psychedelics are already here. There's already a psychedelic renaissance happening. We're seeing different types of providers that are coming in and now using this innate pathways, maps up in Boulder, who are doing all of these types of research. There's a lot more information available here in this community and locally around what's happening, and they're being used. They're being used in the music scene. They're being used all over. We are looking at that and recognizing that we don't think that people should be going to jail or, otherwise losing their livelihoods for the result of using this substance.
Colorado was one of the first 2 U.S. states to legalize recreational cannabis sales, which it did by voter initiative in 2012, putting it on the frontier of American drug policy then and now.
This is the best place in the country to do this right now. Denver, and maybe the state of Colorado, is in many ways, at least with drug policy, embracing more of this libertarian concept that, as long as I'm not causing harm to self or others, we should have the freedom to use whatever substances we choose and put into our bodies whatever we choose.
Denver's decriminalization initiative makes the possession or use of psilocybin the city's lowest law enforcement priority and prohibits the city from spending resources to impose criminal penalties for the personal use and personal possession of psilocybin mushrooms by persons 21 years of age and older, and also establishes a panel to review the effects of the change in law. It does not legalize commercial sales of mushrooms, leaving a potentially large gray market. Sovine says her experience in cannabis legalization, which progressed from medical to recreational in every state that's legalized it, convinced her that decriminalization rather than medicalization is actually the far more radical and liberatory path to take.
Maybe we want to see doctors being able to prescribe psilocybin, but is that the only way we want to be able to access it? Should we still be going to jail and having it be a criminal offense outside of having a physician prescribe it for you lawfully? I think that the core tenet and the reason why the campaign became what it was today was because we don't necessarily think that going through that process necessarily means access to all patients.
Groups like the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, or MAPS, have spent nearly 33 years funding the study of psychedelics for treating mental and emotional problems. And that work is only recently reaching fruition, with a study of the psychedelic MDMA to treat post-traumatic stress disorder about to enter the final phase of FDA clinical trials, and the organization is hopeful it will achieve full approval for use in clinical settings by 2021. Scientists like Charles Grobe at Johns Hopkins have also studied psilocybin in a clinical setting and found a measurable decrease in death anxiety among terminal cancer patients dosed with the drug, sometimes just a single time.
Our subjects reported being more engaged in their lives, getting a renewed sense of self and a renewed sense of meaning and purpose to the time they had remaining.
But advocates say the more radical decriminalization movement complements rather than undermines the work of groups like MAPS.
Psilocybin mushrooms have the potential to address the 5 psychiatric symptoms that we're facing as a country, and those things are depression, anxiety, addiction, PTSD, and pain. Well, the research is amazing. It costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time, and the fact that people are being criminalized today as we speak is a big motivation for why we're doing this work.
On the horizon, activists are working to put statewide psilocybin decriminalization on ballots in Oregon and California in 2020. Both Sovine and Matthews believe that what happened in Denver won't stay in Denver.
Part of the team from California is here tonight. They came out to support us, and I know the petitioners in Oregon. The best advice I can offer is find volunteers who are committed to this. Fundraising is key. Really respect and honor the research and the researchers who have dedicated their entire lives to this work. They need to be a part of the conversation.
It starts by forcing the conversation and protecting access, whether you're using this plant for a medical reason or a spiritual reason or a recreational reason. You should not be going to jail or losing your children for it.